Hi kids, it's the Mr. Fly here, hope you're well. Now, exciting day for me today because it's been exactly 1 year since I bought the CRF 250L, so stick around and stay tuned. I'll give you my 1 year long-term review, the likes and don't likes, the good things, the bad points, all about the Honda CRF 250L. Okay, so to start with then, let's go through the all-important numbers, the specs of this machine. What exactly is it? Well, it's a 250cc Honda CRF 250L, which is kind of Honda's beginner off-road bike, if you like. It's not a serious motocross machine. It's something that you'd use for doing green lanes, that sort of thing. The engine is very, very reliable. In fact, it's the motor that they use in some of their road bikes, so that makes it very easy to live with. Service intervals are in the order of thousands of miles as opposed to tens of hours, which is what you get with the serious bikes. This is 4-stroke. It's double overhead cam, absolutely bulletproof, normal Honda build quality, so no problems there. Puts out something like 23 brake horsepower, so not particularly powerful, but quite a torquey engine, so adequate for the purpose that this bike is built. It's very frugal, does about 75 miles per gallon, and the little tank holds about 2 gallons of fuel, so theoretically you can get 120, 150 miles out of a tank, although I'll get somewhat less than that with the modifications I've done. So in the 850 odd miles that I've done on the bike, what have I used the bike for? Well, exactly as I mentioned before, it's been light green laning type activity. Before I bought this bike, I'd never been off-road at all, so I've been completely self-taught, and everything I've done is just just a bit of local fun really. So I've done green lanes in Amersham. I've done green lanes in Great Missenden.
Deep mud. Oh, keep that power on. Keep going, bike, keep going.
I've done green lanes in Prince's Risborough. I've done loads of local rides, including one of my favourite lunchtime rides in the winter, the Pedner Loop. And of course, mustn't forget this year, had a great holiday up in the Cairngorms, took the bike along and did some great trails, whole days out on trails there. And I've got some videos of those particular rides, so I'll stick some links on this video if you're interested. So that's the sort of thing I've been using the bike for. As I say, not great miles, but lots of great fun. So I mentioned earlier I've made a number of mods. Let me just talk you through the modifications I've made and what I think of them. So first up, and this isn't in any particular order, I fitted some heated grips and the hand guards as well. They were something that actually I've just found on my other bikes, in the winter, and I use this bike predominantly through winter because I'm trying to protect the other bikes perhaps that time of year. Your hands getting cold is one of the things that stops you wanting to ride. So heated grips and hand guards, very much well worth adding, and definitely recommend them. They're only cheap. I think the hand guards were from eBay, something like 35 quid, and the heated grips, they're very cheap to buy. You can get various manufacturers make them less than 50 quid, and then you can fit them yourself. So very much recommend that as a first mod if you're going to be riding in winter. The phone mount you've probably seen as well, very handy if you're going off-road, because of course you can have applications on there that have detailed maps. I use an OS map that shows me where the byways open to all traffic are, so I know exactly that I'm on the right legal places that I can be. So something like that, or a sat nav, recommended for one of these. In terms of power enhancements, one of the other changes I did was fit this full FMF exhaust system. Bought that direct from the US. That actually liberated a few horsepower. It makes the bike sound much, much better. And also it looks good, but also it really does make the bike breathe better. This is the Mega Bomb header that I've got on here. They do one called a Power Bomb as well, and the exhaust I've got is the Q4, which is the more quiet version, believe it or not, even though this is quite noisy. That is by far the best mod I did on the bike in terms of power. As soon as I put that on the bike, the bike just opened up. It went from being quite like a damp squib to ride after my other bikes. It felt very, very slow. Stuck that on, and suddenly power no longer became an issue. So thoroughly recommend them. About £400 I think, so quite expensive when you consider the cost of the bike, but well worth adding. Together with that, I put in an EJK fuel controller. It lives under the seat. Again, I've got videos on me installing that. Haven't fiddled with it from the stock settings. It comes complete with the settings ready for this bike with that exhaust. So that sits under the seat. Just make sure we get the right mix and we're not doing anything buggering up valves in the engine, that sort of thing. Okay, after that, I did the airbox mod. The airbox lives under here. Again, video on that, basically just liberated that, made it breathe a bit easier, put in some small filters, drilled some extra holes. Excuse me, I'll just answer that phone. Okay, that's the phone sorted. So next up, tail tidy. Not really a tail tidy, it was a do-it-yourself job. Just took a saw to that and put a slightly smaller number plate on just to tidy up the back end. Again, there's a video on that, I'll put a link up. And then the rack that I put on the back as well, very, very handy. When you're going out for the day, you can just bungee on there your bag or whatever, so you don't have to put it on your back. And also, I bungee on there a small auxiliary fuel tank, because if you are going out in the wilds, like when I was in the Cairngorms, for example, the nearest fuel station could be many miles away. So I just carry an extra gallon of fuel on the back there as well. So that was very cheap purchase. It was from eBay. It was about, I think it was about 70 quid, something like that, and it's been absolutely invaluable. Thoroughly recommend that. Back down in the engine, I did some modifications around here. Well, minor modifications. I did I put on the 13-tooth front sprocket just to give it a bit more low power zing. To be honest with you, I did that after I did the exhaust and so on. Didn't really notice a great difference with that, but that's on there anyway. And then I just did these hill guards, started to get a bit scratched up, so I put some carbon covering on those. I think it looks quite nice, and it means I'm scratching the covering, which I can do again easily, rather than scratching the plastic underneath it. So that was just a little winter project. Again, videos on that if you're interested. And then last but not least, added a few stickers. The bike in its original livery, quite plain. There are loads of kits you can buy on eBay to, you know, get whatever stickers you want on here based on various race teams and so on, so you can go that route if you want to, or you can just add stuff that I accumulated, which I've done, and I quite like the way that it's ended up. You can overdo it, of course, with stickers, but I think these sorts of bikes kind of cry out for a bit of bling, so put those on there as well. So that's the mods that I've done, and I don't regret any of them. I recommend them all to you, and as I said, got loads of videos on those if you want to look at them. But what about the things I like and don't like about the bike? Well, stick around and I'll tell you. So much for the modifications that I've done to the bike, but what do I like and don't like about it? Well, I have to refer to my notes to this just to make sure I've covered everything. But first and foremost, I love the simplicity of the bike. Nothing complicated about it. There's no ABS, no traction control, no riding modes. It's just a straightforward get on, use the clutch, change gear, throttle away. Very, very simple bike. So I love the simplicity of it. It's back to basics biking, and I really like that. The cost. I mentioned already it's frugal, but overall the bike is just cheap to run. It's a 250cc, so it's cheap to tax, cheap to insure. Everything about it's cheap to buy. I'll talk about cost of ownership in more detail shortly, but I like the cost. Next, noise. With the FMF exhaust, it just sounds fantastic. Here's a clip of me riding by that I put up last year. And as you can see and hear, the noise is just fantastic with that exhaust on, so I love that. I like the fact that it can go anywhere. I can be out on a ride just around the lanes and I'll see somewhere that I fancy going that I wouldn't dream of going on my other bikes, if it's muddy or if it, no matter what the weather, if it's bumpy or rock strewn or it's through a field or something. The fact that you can do that if you choose to is just fantastic. I love the go anywhere nature of the bike. It's really, really great fun. Which does take me to the next general point. The bike is great fun. I mentioned previously you don't need to have big horsepower for big fun, and this bike has taught me that. I absolutely do not look down on any biker that runs a bike that's on a small CC engine or low power, because power does not equal fun necessarily. There's a time and a place for acceleration, but you can also have some great fun on these low power bikes. So that's something I really like about it. It's lightweight. I really like that. I love lightweight bikes. This thing is the lightest bike I've got. It's 144 kilograms. So it sort of feels, when you first jump on it, feels like a mountain bike with an engine in it. Absolutely love that. The fact that I could go uphill on it and didn't have to pedal, I just thought was amazing. So really like the lightweight. The quality of the build I love. It's a Honda. The Japanese really do know how to make quality bikes. The switch gear just feels solid. It's so much better than I've got on my BMW. Yet this bike is, so much cheaper. You can get 6 of these for the price of my BMW. So yeah, the quality of the bike is fantastic, and the reliability. No issues at all with the engine. It's been absolutely great. They're easy to maintain. I really like that about the bike. And then last but not least is the looks of the bike. It looks to me like an off-road bike should look. So I really like that, and that's one of the things that led me towards the bike. So you probably knew I was going to say that that I like the bike, but what don't I like about the bike? Well, there are a few things that are all fairly minor, but there are one or two things. First off, the stock front tyre, absolutely rubbish. As I said before, I'd never ridden off-road before, so I didn't really know what a stock front tyre should feel like, and I thought it was quite good to start with, but I've learnt riding it, it's very prone to washing out, and in fact, as soon as that's worn out a bit, or I have some spare cash, I'm going to replace that for something a bit more serious, and hopefully give me a bit more front end grip. The front stock tyre is rubbish. The next thing not too keen on is the seats. Quite hard if you go on a long journey. If you're doing a 100 miler, might start to get a sore backside. I don't tend to ride it for long distances, so not a big issue. More than the hardness, I find the slipperiness of the seat. So maybe some sort of cover required there. And also the seat is pretty high. It's I think 870 odd millimetres, so it's a pretty tall bike. It's very, very narrow, so you can get your feet down. But when you're off-roading, I'm on tippy toe, and really I want to have my feet flat down. So the height of the bike is a bit of a problem. What else is there? Stock fuel tank is quite small. I already mentioned that I occasionally carry an auxiliary fuel tank in case I run out. You can get aftermarket tanks that are bigger and also a translucent, so you can see how much fuel you've got left. Although rare amongst my bikes, this bike does have a fuel gauge, so that's good, so I don't really need to do that. But certainly, yeah, this tank looks nice, but it is quite small, so that's something to consider. And then last but not least, I guess just the fact that it's not a European bike. The fact that it's so good and it's Japanese for some reason upsets me a bit, because I obviously like my European bikes, as if you've seen any of my other videos, you've probably noticed. But there we go. They certainly do make good bikes in this sort of genre. So that's it for what I don't like. Nothing really major. I quite struggled to find things that I didn't like. So overall, great little bike. So I've mentioned a few times that one of the things that I really like about the CRF is the cost of ownership. Well, how much exactly has it cost me to have this bike? Well, the bike itself cost me, it's a 2014 bike. I bought it as like an ex-demo bike, had 400 miles on it. And I bought it for £3,470, including delivery and its first service. So absolute bargain for a brand new bike, effectively. So that was fantastic. So, you can think of it as that, that's less than the cost of 2 BMW Pannier systems or 2 exhausts for the Panigale, and you got one of these. So absolute bargain to buy. Fuel economy, I already said it's frugal. I'm getting about 100 miles before I get the fuel light come on. I think you can probably stretch it. I've never run it out because I don't want to, but I imagine you can get 130 miles out of the tank. Something like that. 73 miles per gallon is the official fuel figure. I think with my mods, with the airbox mod, the FMF exhaust, and the way I ride it, I'm getting a bit less than that. I'm probably getting nearer 68, something like that. In terms of other costs, tax, very cheap for a bike of this cc. It works out at £38 a month, or £3.33. Sorry, £38 a year, or £3.33 a month if you pay for it monthly. And that compares to something like, I think, £8.33 for my other bikes, the bigger CCs. Insurance, difficult to say because it's on one of these multi-bike policies together with my GS. That's less than £200 with 3 years no claims bonus. I always obviously keep it in a garage. It's locked up. I'm mid-40s. I'm in a reasonable area, etc. So that's pretty good, pretty cheap. In terms of consumables, well, I haven't used any. I've used no consumables whatsoever on the bike. No new tyres, no brakes, no nothing yet. So that's great. Servicing, because I've had it for a year, I've just had the first service done. I took it to my mate Nigel up at Moto Tune in Chesham, the sort of local independent guy that I use and really trust. The service that I've just had done cost me £92.55. Now compare that to the first service on my GS, which was £750. Different league. Okay, I'm not comparing like with like there. The service on the BMW included other items, but you get the point I'm making. Very cheap to service, so fantastic. Anything gone wrong with the bike? Well, no. It did have one recall. I made a video on that, which was to do with the starter magnetic switch malfunction. That was a bit of a hassle to get changed, to be honest. It didn't cost me anything, but just cost me some time and effort. But that did cure a problem I did have with the occasional stalling on the bike. That hasn't happened since the recall, so that's all fixed. Other than that, no issues with the bike whatsoever. So there we have it. That's my 1 year long-term review of ownership of the CRF 250L. In summary, fantastic bike, great fun to own. Taught me that you don't need big horsepower to have great fun. It's cheap, it's frugal, it's basic, it's simple, but it's just oodles of fun. So it's definitely a long-term keeper. Again, I expect to be doing a 2-year ownership review this time next year for you. Okay, so look forward to speaking to you next time. Until then, this has been the Mr. and Flyer. Cheerio.